Hello, everyone. My name is Carlos Reed. I'm the current athletic director, as you all know, at Bishop O'Dowd High School. I'm also a co-founder, board member of NOMAD, the National Organization of Minority Athletic Directors, which was created this summer. Also the current president of the North Coast Section Athletic Director Association. I'm also a proud product of Berkeley Public Schools and a graduate of UC Santa Barbara. So go Gauchos. Uh, this topic of roundtable today is social justice within your campus and best practices. We're going to spend a good 45 minutes of sharing ideas of best practices around this topic. And I thank Leo for reaching out to me to help sort of lead this roundtable today. And I appreciate all of you being here today. For all of us, it's an important topic. It's a lens that all departments should be looking through and evaluating your department philosophy by. Your department should also not be the only department on your campus having these discussions. It's a whole issue with programming and resources needed to get this work done. It's also not easy work. You can't just check a box and say you've done this and be performative. It's a conversation that has to start with acknowledging that the private schools or independent institutions that we work at were created and maintained as a part of a systematic racist past. Once you acknowledge that fact and start to teach true history, your school can move forward to having an anti-racist school. Um, as you all may know, I am in the first 7 months of this new gig at Bishop O'Dowd High School. I spent the previous 20 something years at Drew School in San Francisco, a school in which I was one of the few minority administrators, a place where I, along with a few teachers before me, were the DEI persons on campus before DEI positions was established at the school. I spent a lot of time listening to my student athletes and students of color at the school, not just the student athletes. Um, Also creating a safe space for those students of color and, advocating for them as well. And also holding them accountable in ways in which they need to be held accountable. Those experiences allowed me to be, very experienced, not just in that world, but in the athletic world, to be able to be blessed to take over the O'Dowd athletic department. And so there's been a lot of work that's been done. I want to acknowledge that Hillary, who's on this call, has been a great partner in doing things that we've done in the short amount of time here at my time at Bishop O'Dowd. So I really want to shout Hillary as being a willing partner in this work that we're leading. So I just want to acknowledge that there's been quite a few instances of things at O'Dowd High School, and all detailed actually this summer as at a lot of our schools this summer with Instagram or social media accounts detailing issues of racism and gender justice issues. And I also want to acknowledge the work in which our director, this is a new position created at our school this year. The director of equity and belonging was created, and Patrice Wakely, who's been at the school for about 7 years, has stepped into that role and is engaged with us as a department and me particularly as a new O'Dowd faculty member, bringing me along and including me on a bunch of things. So the school has been engaging in DEI work with all departments and using a consultant. So we've spent a lot of time as a school diving into these issues so far, and for this whole entire school year, and obviously prior to me coming to school. The school has also created an anti-racist task force, which I am a part of. So we're looking at all aspects of the school to determine the necessary steps to move towards an anti-racist school. The school has also been really great in leading discussions, and the most important part is hearing from our students. So we have this thing called Dragon Talks, which can range from multiple topics, but most of the Dragon Talks have surrounded social justice issues and anti-racist issues. So it's led by faculty, but engages students to discuss, and faculty and administrators to sit and listen. Also, sort of, since we're sharing best practices with our schools, and once again, I'm going to share what we're doing here, and then open up the floor for all of you to sort of share what's going on in your campuses, so we can all learn from you. We've also engaged in a program called Advanced Athletics, the Performance Skills for the Complete Dragon. So this summer, and as many of us have sort of been a part of, spending lots of time doing professional development opportunities, and having opportunities like these provided for us, for many colleagues, for many of our colleagues across the nation. And so part of coming into the new school year and being tasked to create an experience for which all of our student athletes could sort of graduate from O'Dowd and have that same experience. And you know, I had to acknowledge that a lot of these things were happening in our programs, but not happening for every single program. It sort of depended on which coach you got, and it wasn't sort of something that everyone, that every student athlete was a part of or learning from. And so being tasked to create that experience, I, along with Hillary, sort of brainstormed an idea which, you know, birthed Advanced Athletics Performance Skills for the Complete Dragon. And it's a range of topics that is tied to our charism. And the one that's, you know, the topic that is most useful for this discussion here is our Use Your Voice, Social Justice and Service workshop. It's a 3-part series. 2 workshops separately, one, so students in one, and coaches as well in the other. And so they sat through 2 workshops being led by an O'Dowd alumni, Scott Brooks, Professor Scott Brooks, who's at Arizona State University, and really the leading sort of voice in this topic. You know, I was lucky enough to get in contact with him through one of our coaches, and got a chance to engage him on leading this discussion for our students and our coaches. And so once again, 3 total workshops. The first 2 were done separately with students and coaches and in their own. And then tonight, actually, we're going to have our 3rd session where we'll be bringing coaches and student athletes together to discuss everything that we've covered in the first 2 workshops, and then develop ideas for how we might move forward as Dragon Athletics. We'll identify priorities and create steps to institutionalize strategies that advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in social justice at Bishop O'Dowd. So, you know, we actually had it scheduled to happen prior to the break, and you know, us being very sort of aggressive in trying to create programming, you know, realized that the date that we had set to end this workshop was during our sort of prep for finals week, and that just wasn't the best time to do it. And since you know, rescheduled for that to happen tonight, and I think you know, based upon, you know, what's happened here in our nation the last month or so, that it'll be a really, really engaging night tonight, to say the least. So looking forward to having that and being able to share sort of what came out of that with everyone here in this room after tonight. Our work needed now is just connecting with the students. So much harder because our school is still in remote. We are not on campus, only for our pod workouts currently right now. So, you know, it's been difficult to engage students wholeheartedly in this programming. It's been, you know, once again, because we're not on campus, we're not able to grab people. And for me, selfishly, like not being able to know the students, you know, just now getting the chance to know a few of them as they're coming on campus to work out. So, but I'm looking forward to once we come back to campus and being able to connect with more students, and the fact that this programming is not created just for COVID times. This is something that our department is going to continue with even when we're back in normal time. So this wasn't like a stopgap to fill space. It has filled space, but it's something that we're committing to for the entirety. So there'll be future Dragons benefiting from this program. So enough of me talking right now. We need to adhere to the roundtable discussion here, and I'd love to hear from any of you with questions, or maybe share some of the things that you've done on your campus right now on this topic. So the floor is open, so anyone who wants to join in can share, or once again, like I said, ask questions.
Hey, Carlos, quick question for you. How was the turnout with your students in the programming that you were just talking about?
So our first couple of series, first one actually was the highest participated because we sort of had a little bit of time to like drum it up and sort of build it. So we had about 70 students on in our first one, and then also our coaches. Once again, as most of you know, in California here, we're not in any kind of season, and hopefully we'll be in some kind of season pretty soon. But we've had to engage our coaches, and one of the things that we wanted to do was to make sure that they're around, and so we incentivize, so gave them some gift cards for coming to our workshops and helping support that. But so our coaching staff, once again, too, all in that first workshop, it was heavily sort of attended, and as the months have gone on, we've saw a little decline, but once again, it's the first time that something like this has happened, and I also thank Hillary for reminding me that every time I'm a little bit disappointed about the number of people who are on, that she reminds me that it is like the first step, first time that anything like this has happened in our school. So and I think also, for us, it's been, the timing of it, right? We've had to have these things that's, when we first started, we weren't allowed to be on campus to do workouts. So we were starting these workshops at 6 p.m. And now, since we are on campus doing workouts up until 7 o'clock, we've now starting like tonight, our workshop starts at 7:30. So, acknowledging the fact that students and adults have been on Zoom all day, and that Zoom fatigue is real. So, but we've gotten great feedback from our coaches and our student athletes that have been a part of it, as well as parents too, really excited about the work that we're doing.
Hey, Carlos, if you don't mind, I'd like to jump in here for a second.
Please.
So I'm Jim Prunty. I'm from Brother Rice High School in Chicago. We're an all-boys Catholic high school. Excuse me. One of my colleagues, Tom Wentine, is on the call too. So last June, Tom and I and a couple of our colleagues started a Chicago Catholic League Racial Equity and Justice Committee, and for obvious reasons. So we have 16 schools in our league. I think we're the oldest continuously running Catholic league in the country. We're started in 1912, so it's a big history in our conference. So we've been trying to engage athletic directors and people who are chairing the DEI efforts at their individual schools, as well as engaging some of our student athletes on our committee. And we've had some progress. We've had some, taken some steps back. We're kind of floundering a little bit, to be candid with you. I was wondering if anybody else is addressing this as a conference. We thought, especially being in Chicago, it was important for our conference to take a stand, again, as the largest, Catholic high school, league around. So any input from anybody who might be doing this conference wide, if you have any suggestions that maybe have worked for you, or even at your schools that you think we could apply to our conference. Again, it's a league of 16 schools, most of which are co-ed. There's 4 remaining single-sex all-boys schools. The other 12 are co-ed.
Wow, that's great that your conference is actually taking that step. I see Carolyn has her hand up. Carolyn, do you have something to add here?
No, actually, I had a question,
Oh.
but
But maybe you can.
but
Can you
speaking
also,
to James, yeah, that's really intriguing. It's fascinating and multifaceted. But I think also my first reaction to that was that, especially in Chicago, there's already stuff being done. So my first, I think, item on that would be to ask the coaches that are already involved in social justice movements, or people who are already at the schools, what community resources that they have already internalized and that are available, and the kids as well. So that's what would be my suggestion, is that the league itself has to avail itself to the structures that are already in the community. And I know in Chicago, that's some fierce social justice land right there. That's my 2 cents.
I'd love to be able to tell you that I'm doing a tremendous job as the leader of the committee, but I would be lying if I said that. I'm trying to keep this thing going. So our league is pretty diverse. We have our smallest enrollment school is a school of 100, and that's predominantly students of color, to a school of 2,000, which is a very affluent, predominantly white school in the suburbs. So we have a range in between there. We've got a couple of schools that are comprised of all students of color, and then a variety in terms of racial makeup, from mostly white to a balance of ethnicities and racial cultures. So we're really we're about as diverse a league as you can get, from size to also racial makeup.
Jim, I wanted to first of all thank you. I think one of the things that we all struggle with in different parts of the country, we're not as blessed to have more than one, like most, especially across, maybe probably except for 10 states. Catholic schools are, you're 1 or 2 Catholic schools at best within 5 to 7 other Catholic or non-Catholic school leagues set up, So I think and I appreciate the fact that you're saying that, because I think one of the ways that we can help each other, and this is the point of the Catholic National Athletic Association, is to work together. And I think this approach is a more national world, where maybe we can continue, as I told Carlos, getting this one off the ground for 2021, whatever there is right here, 16 people becomes 30 people, becomes 50 people, becomes 100 people, that we got to take back ideas to our campus. Because we don't have, unfortunately, like in my situation, I have 10 really good public schools, but I can't really have these conversations with them in this Catholic sort of environment to talk about different ideas that work, for our campus. So it's a little bit trickier. As Carlos mentioned, he grew up at Berkeley High, and it's like 5 minutes away from Bishop O'Dowd, but the way that they can function are always unique. I think this avenue, like we have our next virtual retreat set up for February 8th and 9th, I think the dates are, where we have another 45-minute segment. So ideally, just in this world, it would be great for me personally and professionally, I think for all of us, is a monthly CNAA group that with different people leading different discussions. Like Jim, maybe you take advantage of, hey, here's what I know, it's working with our school, and maybe specific guest speakers. I think if we can book out, 6 to 8 of these a year from this for the rest forward, I think it'll move us in a great direction. But like your situation's awesome. And I think we should tap into it and invite them into it. Because I think, to your point, it might be dying because maybe you guys want to beat the crap out of each other in competitions and you're sick of each other. But seeing new faces from around the country could remotivate, and we could probably help each other out to get everyone, at least informed at minimal, and chip away at the big rock that we're all trying to help at, and make a difference. You're muted, Jim.
Leo, you're correct. We're incredibly competitive within our league, but we are pulling together when it comes to this, from our smallest member to our largest member. But I'm kind of floundering as the, I guess, leader of it, because I started it, in terms of keeping the momentum going. And we've had some gaps, we've had some good things, We've had some gaps. So, and Tom Montine is his school, Montine's in our league. He's on this. Tom can kind of support what I've been saying in terms of my personal struggle as the leader of this committee to try to keep this thing going. That's why I'm really curious about what other people are doing. And particularly, I see Anthony up there. I've been on a couple of the Nomad podcasts where you've led, Anthony. So again, I guess I'm just going to soak up any ideas that anybody might have that we could transition with our league in terms of going forward.
James, I appreciate you, Jim, for calling me out like that. And thank everyone for allowing the heathens to join you. I did my best work in Catholic schools, but my school is Francis Parker School, but we are not religiously affiliated, although my faith guides me in everything that I do. So I do have a couple of ideas, Jim, and I apologize. I might not have heard all of what you are already doing currently as a conference, but one of the things that I think is really important is how we engage our student athletes, and particularly, looking at each one of your schools in your conference and seeing if they have, formed some type of student athlete advisory council or leadership council, and getting those group of kids together, maybe even on a Saturday, and talk about events that are happening so that they can start sharing. And I think that one of the things that you could do as a conference is that each school, maybe, you look at the calendar and you host something once a month at each school where you have different themes. Francis Parker, we've hosted what we call the Pollyanna Conference, which is a diversity conference that talks about a number of different things, but in terms of, taking it into an athletic conference, there's so many different areas that you could be discussing, that if you work with your student athletes, develop it. Because for me, my goal is always to empower our students, right? I tell them all the time, don't just listen to me. Let's develop your own ideas and policies. What do you want to see in your schools? What do you want to see in your league? How are we treating each other in our league? How does our sportsmanship relate to how we treat each other? You said your guys are, there's big rivalries within that. Do those rivalries stay within the levels of sportsmanship that we expect? I had known that I've had, in different conferences where I love that our student leadership gets together and talks about those things and how we work together and what they see in their schools going on and how to approach it, because students can learn from students. And I would encourage you to try to let them lead. The next time you get with your group, talk to them about who are your student leaders in your school. Let's get them together. Now, none of this work doesn't come without sacrifice. So, I'm somebody who, if the kids wanted to meet, I'm happy to have them on Saturday. Let's get it on. Let's talk. I'll bring them some donuts and we'll have at it for however long we need to have it. In my student athlete advisory council, I feed them all the time. They don't like what I feed them because I'm like, you're still athletes. I'm feeding you healthy stuff. We're not just getting craziness now. But because I need their brains to be working. But that's one way. And Jim, I'm happy, get my email. I'm happy to share some other things. I'm also one of the thought creators for Play Like a Champion, which is an incredible organization that we've been leading some workshops on diversity and having uncomfortable conversations. We just finished our second part of a 3-part series on this. So I encourage you to look into that. That's out of Notre Dame, and we do some really great things there that can help you kind of look at what's going on in our communities and how we can talk about that with our kids. So that's another idea for you to explore. So Play Like a Champion, student athletic advisory committees meeting together on Saturdays. You give them a topic, let them discuss and start to plan things like that. And each school in the conference making it an part of your whole ride calendar of hosting events, once a month, once every other month, once a season, where the athletes get together and you talk about those things. And it's about building community and bringing communities together. And I think you'll be surprised how kids will jump on that because they're just hungry for it. So those are things that I could suggest right off, and I'm happy to work with you more offline.
Jim, one thing I wanted to add is that our league, despite its diversity of public and private, did create I happen to be the commissioner, but we created a social justice committee open to anyone who wanted to participate. So for this year, they're meeting monthly to discuss. Obviously, in California, it's a little weird because we're not in seat, playing, but in preparation, looking at everything that Anthony mentioned, sportsmanship guidelines to whatever, to make sure we're in alignment. Obviously creating opportunities, how we're going to do things. So I think my suggestion from a league perspective, as I was thinking, listening to you, is that if you have to, I think my belief is get the people that want to work on it right now and build a good foundation, take small steps. And then eventually, I think this is a good indication, right? We have some small steps here for some people that just want to try to get better in a different way. I throw out too, like I see Chris George, he's a part of my LaSallian network out there. I know like the Jesuit network's really tight. I know that LaSallians are sort of close, not really. I'm making some suggestions to our and diocesan schools. I think you could work within your diocese and within your whatever religious order you're following to get some sort of smaller national, regional things. Make sure they're on your agenda. Get to your president/principal to say, look, I need 30 minutes. Whenever you do your athletic department director, stuff like that. I think those are quick ways. For us, we have all coaches workshop every 2 years, and we were going to have one live, obviously this January, but can't. But when we do one, we've obviously, I think just reshifting the gears to your coaches is something that I'm trying to control. And just even on the Zooms, we've uncovered a lot of things that have just minimal awareness is a win for me, And to Anthony's point, our sports advisory committee, we meet, and that's pretty much it's the hot topic, right? I mean, we're not talking about, hey, what was the win like or what championships? It's more of, what's going on in your world? What are you seeing? I'm curious to see how people are addressing social media within their athletic department and what coaches or students, and, I'm sure we're all running into it at one point in time. I think I see St. Francis on here. There was some, depending on what side of the coin you are, it was a very volatile summer, right? And for some schools across the country and what may or may not be. And I'm kind of curious to see how people are handling social media in this topic or not. You might've been told to not, like our advancement team and on our campus, we've discussed, obviously appropriate communication, and we've had to outline to coaches what is or what is not, available on social media. Are you acting as Chris George personal? Or are you acting as Chris George LaSalle High School? So I'm curious to see what thoughts people have taken on social justice, not to hijack the conversation, but in social media, with social justice. Are there any best practices or landmines you stepped on that you're like, oh, we should have done it this way? I don't know if anyone's even had that experience in the last 6 to 8 months. Carlos, I think it's a topic for part of the CNAA on the line.
Yeah. I know Carolyn had something to say earlier too, or a question. Got it. I don't want to forget Carolyn.
No, I always have to write my questions down because I do forget, because I do get really involved in the conversation. But I guess there are some things here about social justice, and I think if there's anything I've learned about being in a Catholic school, is really that the kids already know, right? And so I think that the approach is from that. I agree that, an empowerment of our students is a place where we're at, especially in athletics. Like that is our charge, right? But I also do believe that as a Catholic school, as an entity with Catholic social teaching, I really do think that it is just the access to already the wonderful human beings that our student athletes already are. So how are we going to reveal that with them, right? And I think like the Catholic school is primed for that, because we are supposed to care for the whole person. So I think that's our in, right? That's our in to have really rough conversations with our kids. And you know what? In our athletics departments, that has to be the thing that our coaches have to be comfortable doing. And I think we have to ask that of our coaches. As a coach at a Catholic school, you cannot just focus on the X's and O's and on your sport. You can't, not at a Catholic school. That's not, that would be irresponsible. So I think therein lies the crux. The kids are ready for it. The kids deserve it. They're demanding it. And it's up to us as the adults to yield to that, and to answer to that, and to be responsible to that. So I think if coaches are unwilling to do that, or I think they just need more support with that, right? And how are we going to do that? And so to demand that of our DEI professionals, of each other, even on campus. I think that's where the hard work really is, because if we were always just facing the students, they could just tell us what they need, right? And then it would be cool, having them set up the stuff, having them create what are the parameters of social media expression, having them do that, because they know how to do all that stuff. I'm still trying to work on Slack. I can't find myself on that stuff, right? So I think that is the challenge, is how do we get out of our own way in order to have them express that, because it's happening and they're doing it. So that's just my 2 cents. I in all transparency, I am my approach is looking at the adult and the adult capacity, building out the capacity of adults in athletic departments in that way. So that's my 2 cents, and I'm always here for y'all if anyone needs any kind of motivation or help or support.
I was just going to say, I know Leo mentioned my name a couple of times. I'm no expert by any means, but one phrase I've been thinking a lot about while listening to everybody is to focus on meeting the kids where they are. Last summer in Portland, we had a lot of action, and we had a lot of kids get inspired and motivated to be more active on social media, to go march. And I mean, they were committed, and they were bringing along their friends, and they were gathering and organizing, and felt really, really strong in their conviction. And for the most part, were very responsible and appropriate, with what they were posting. And it was it was focused on learning, and it was focused on kind of sharing truth, their truth. For the last 3 or 4 years at our school, we've had waves of teachers and faculty and staff go through the Center for Equity and Inclusion, which is a Portland organization. And it's very intense, it takes a lot of financial investment on the school's part. And so we've been trying to, kind of take a grassroots, kind of approach to teaching each other and learning as an organization, and kind of branching out throughout all of our departments with folks who are becoming more aware and more knowledgeable about DEI work. And then this year in the summertime, we hired a DEI coordinator. And so we have a coordinator and a support person. So we've really tried to approach it from multiple angles. But the big thing that we keep coming back to is not losing sight of, where are the kids and what is important to them, and what are their needs right now in the multiple programs that they're in. And so I, listen to you, James, like we've tried to do a lot of different things, and every once in a while, I think sometimes we've got a little lost or lost some inspiration because we've maybe fallen out of touch with what the kids are asking for, or needing, or we just maybe haven't included them because we've been designing, but maybe they were left out from time to time, and they can provide that inspiration, that spark again, because they're hungry for it and they want to be involved and they want to get motivated. And they already are, like you were saying, Carolyn, they are. We just want to be inclusive of them to make sure we're marching together. One simple thing we did, it doesn't included students, but as an administration, at the request of our Director of Equity Inclusion and our faculty, for our administration to be a learning group is before every meeting that we have on a weekly basis, we read different short chapters from different pieces of work to help focus a conversation so that we can be a learning administrative group talking about DEI topics and getting into conversation with each other so we can sharpen each other and help each other understand what each of us is coming from with respect to these topics. It's been quite helpful. It's a simple thing really that we've committed to, but it's paid dividends for sure on a weekly basis. And we really need to do that in more areas. I need to do that with my coaches on a consistent basis as well, because we need to get people talking about some uncomfortable topics and kind of being real with each other and make a commitment and being routine with that.
Thank you, Chris. I think Jay has something to say there too. Jay.
No, I was just going to backtrack on when we were talking about social media and kind of how to progress from there. I know in conjunction with our social justice and equity inclusion director at our school, I think it was last spring, and then we also had a professional development day with our colleagues as a whole. Having an outside organization help out and lead some of these discussions, I think was very helpful for us. Now you kind of take out of these unbiased observers and moderators to kind of help lead the discussion and push it along and have some people have some expertise in that manner. But one of our professional developments, I do recall, I think it was in the spring, I believe, but they actually did a social media audit for our webpage, and I think amongst other things that we have as a school, and having kind of what outsiders may see is a different viewpoint than what we actually see, and I thought that was very informative and made us think from a different lens. I forget his name. He's a professor at Stanford, did the audit for our webpage, and he brought up some insightful observations regarding how things were portrayed. And he kind of said, some of these are, you may not even think about it, but it looks like this and he said he had no Catholic upbringing or had no ties of knowing too much about our school, but those are from a lens of an outsider looking in, which I thought was very insightful. So maybe if you have a chance, I'll try to find that name and try to share that with you guys if that's something of interest, maybe hiring an outside organization to help lead some of these discussions, I think helps out a lot. The one we did in the fall, they actually they led small group breakouts and kind of had discussions. And there were certain groups. There was our business office side, they had our administration side, and then they also did faculty staff for small group discussions. And they brought everybody back together to kind of help moderate some of these maybe uncomfortable conversations. And I thought taking the onus out of a person maybe feeling comfortable within the community leading discussions and taking somebody from the outside really helped a lot for people to open up.
Great. Thank you for that information. Jay, what school are you at?
I'm the sports performance coordinator at Jesuit High School, Sacramento.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, we are sort of butting up against our 45-minute sort of time limit here. I know we all have things to do, but there is one other question. Carolyn, go ahead, open your mic. I saw you put it in the chat, but go ahead. And
well, my other question to everyone here is that as athletic departments, how then are we interacting with the greater Catholic school community, right? Like, so do you have representation, either coaches or student athletes that are in campus ministry, and then in campus ministry, then attached to the DEI work of the adults? So always looking at ways that athletics also interacts with all the other, whether it's curriculum, whether it's the DEI, whether it's campus ministry, student activities, obviously, all those. Where is the representation, and where, and so like Jay was talking about audits, like those are some general audits that y'all could do as a department, right? To really unfold where the assets are, where the knowledge is already of what's already there on campus. So I'm also a fan of like maybe bringing in some a different viewpoint with other people to help facilitate that. But the uncovering of that can already be done, especially for schools that have limited resources, that can't afford to pay for outside assistance. That's something that can be held with your DEI, and to see what sort of assets are already there, and where the kids are, right? Is there a kid? There's always those kids, right, that are also on campus ministry, that are varsity players, that are leaders already on your campus. Maybe they've maybe they have representation on DEI committees, or they have access to that. Those are the kids who are probably already setting the tone for social media posts, that are already carrying out the work that we can just kind of co-sign onto. So that's what I like. It's just kind of like co-signing onto the kids and the good work that they're already doing, and help in reassuring them, right? And offering them some guidance to that. I think that's if we're comfortable in that role, the kids pick up on that.
Yeah, and that's what I was excited about our program, is that we did include all of the different departments in our advanced athletics program, where we actually had members of our CMT lead a workshop for our student athletes in this advanced athletics. Like we actually met with them. Hillary sort of led that work, but met with them in their classroom. The teacher gave us like 10 minutes at the end of each class to sort of work with them to build their presentation and workshop up, which, they led. We sort of helped guide, right? Because you got to help guide, but they led that discussion and came up with the topics. And it was great to see, specifically for me, once again, being new to the school and not understanding everything and how the school worked, to sort of be involved in that process was definitely really eye-opening for me, and really inspiring to see those leaders from that class sort of take and shine. So we are at 10:46. Do we have any other discussion or any questions or topics? I appreciate all of you for spending 45 minutes of your time this morning here to talk about this really important topic. And once again, it is uncomfortable. It is difficult, and it's not easy work. It's not something, once again, where you can just check a box and say, oh, I've done that. I mean, in order to do it right, you need to spend some time. And once again, it has to be a whole school sort of engagement in this. It can't just be from the athletic department. Although as athletic directors, we typically lead discussions and lead the way because we are doing the good work. But it can't just be within your athletic department. So